Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. Myself Onkar. I'm a full-time software engineer in JP Morgan and Chase. On this channel, I talk about things in tech, software, clearing coding interviews, DSA, system design, and much more. So as of now, I am creating a playlist on low-level design patterns. We'll try to cover most of them. In this video, I will be talking about singleton design pattern, which is a type of a creational design pattern. So let's get started. Okay, so let's start now. So LLD design patterns. So what are design patterns? Design patterns in low-level design refer to reusable solutions to common problems when designing and implementing software systems. These patterns are language independent and provide a structural approach to solving these problems, making system more robust, maintainable, and efficient. Okay, so let's try to make sense of what this exactly means. So in engineering, or rather software engineering, whatever problems we face, those problems can be broadly classified into a general type of a problems. And to tackle those general problems comes the general solutions or the general patterns. So in our project, we want our implementation to happen in a particular way. So that belongs to a particular category. It solves a particular kind of a problem, a general problem. So here comes a general design patterns to solve those problems using their implementation. Okay, so let's go ahead. So there are many kinds of design patterns, but broadly they're classified into three types: creational design pattern, behavioral design pattern, and structural design pattern. Today, let's see into the creational design patterns. So what are creational design patterns? Creational design patterns focus on how objects are created, instantiated, and managed in a system. These patterns allow us to create objects in a way that is flexible, efficient, and decoupled from systems architecture. So as you can see, as the name suggests, creation, so these design patterns deals with the creation of the objects. And here the term decoupled is very important. Let's try to understand that. What is decoupling? Now a decoupling is a deep topic in itself and it demands its own video. So we'll try to discover more of a decoupling in a separate video, but as of now I will give you a short overview. So decoupling in low level design refers to practice of designing components or modules within a system in a way that reduces their dependencies on each other. In simple terms, it means making sure that different parts of a system can work independently without relying too much on one another. Okay, now let's try to understand it by an example. So let's suppose in our project we have two objects. This is the main object and this is the dependent object or has a dependency on the main object. Okay, now for some reason, maybe because of the customer feedback or we want to provide some other upgrades, the implementation of the main object is changed. So the implementation of the dependent object also needs to be changed. So this happens when the two objects are tightly coupled with each other. So this creates problems. Why? Because as many times you change the implementation of the main object depending on the customer feedback or your business preferences or whatever reason, the implementation of the dependent object also needs to be changed. So this becomes a problem in huge code bases when you have hundreds of objects, hundreds of classes, and each has its own separate functionality. So to tackle this, there comes decoupling or loose coupling. So for the in loose coupling, what happens is that when the implementation of main object is being changed because of whatsoever reason, the implementation of the dependent object doesn't need to be changed. So this happens when the two objects are loosely coupled. And how this is achieved? This is achieved via abstraction or by creating interfaces. So I will give an example. Here I have a USB type C to C connector and I have two phones. So I will connect this and this. So as you can see, this USB type C cable acts as an interface between the two objects. So let's suppose because of the business need, I changed my lightning port to a USB type C port. Okay. So now do I need to change this product as well, this dependent product? No. Why? Because I have my interface. What I will do, I will change this end of the interface. I will according to my business needs. And once if this is changed, then this connector is also changed. I will change the connector. That's it. We again have a dependency matched. I didn't change the implementation of the Dependent product, I just changed the interface connection. Okay, so this is a very hypothetical example or an analogy of a real life scenario. We'll soon have a in-depth video of decoupling, and we'll try to implement that and also have its real life example. As of now, let's move ahead. So patterns in creational design pattern. So there are also again many patterns in creational design patterns. The four famous ones are singleton pattern, factory pattern, abstract factory pattern, and a builder pattern. Let's see the singleton pattern in this video. Singleton design pattern. The singleton design pattern is one of the creational design pattern, and its purpose is to ensure that only one instance of that object is created. In the context of LLD, the singleton pattern is often used to manage the resources that have a single instance. For example, database connection, thread pools, logging, and configuration systems. Okay, let's try to understand. Okay. So now in our project, we have hundreds of classes and hundreds of objects created of that particular classes. Now, what if we want to have a single instance of a particular object created, and whenever there is a need of that object, only that particular instance has been called. For each subsequent need, we don't need to create that object that many number of times. We create once and use it hundred of times. So let's understand it by an example. So let's take first example, database connection. Now we have a database connector class and a database connector object. Why we use database connector? So this basically is an object which helps us in calling the database. Whenever we have database calls, we need to fetch data from the database, we use a database connector object. The purpose of this object is to provide us the data from the database. Okay, so now according to my normal implementation, whenever there is a database call required or database read required or write required, what I will do, I will create a new instance of a database connection and call the data, and using that new instance, like new object, I will have my database queries fetched. But this is like a waste of memory. For each subsequent call, I am creating a new object, utilizing that, and then again it stays in the memory, or like it depends on the implementation if it stays on the memory or not. But in short, here like we are it causes a load on the system when for each subsequent call you are creating a new object, and that new object has basically the same functionality as the previous object. So same kind of example can be stretched down to logging and configuration system. Okay, so now let's move to the VS Code to understand its like real life example. So this is our VS Code video, and here I have my logger class implemented. This is a very cut down short version of the actual real life version of what the exact actual logger is. So what is the use of logger class? It basically logs out your message, prints your message basically, wherever it can print on the console, on your website, or on the app. As of in this video, we are printing our message, we are logging our message on the console. So use of logger class is to log the message, log the user messages. Okay, let's try to understand its implementation. So here I have my class logger. Now here I have my static int count. So static variable are the variables which belong to the classes, not to the objects. So the use case of this variable is to get me the count of the objects, logger objects that have been created till now. So as you can see in the constructor, I increment my counter whenever the constructor is called, and for the understanding purpose, I print this message, that instance count of that particular of logger class created. Next, I have my log function. Like whenever a user calls the log function, it passes its message, and the message is printed on the console, on the terminal. I initialize my count to 0, and here I have my two functions, user1 logs and user2 logs. So this is basically to create a real life scenario, hypothetical real life scenario, where user1 logs function, we create a new logger object, user1 passes its message. Similarly, in user2 log, a new object has been created, and user2 passes its message to print it on the console. And in our int main, we have user1 logs and user2 logs function. So what happens is that when the user1 log function is called, we create a new logger object, the message is been passed, as you can see here. And similarly in user2, a new object is again created, and we pass the message. Okay, so now let's try to run this code. Okay, so as you can see on the terminal, instance 1 of class logger created, then again the message of the user1, hello this is user1. Instance 2 of class logger created, hello this is user2, and again its message. So as you see, we don't need this. Like if there are hundreds of users, and each user will create its separate logger instance and log the message. we want to forcefully implement that only one single instance of the logger must be created, and whenever a user needs that, you call that only one instance, don't recreate that instance. We want to forcefully implement that. So which pattern we use the singleton pattern. Let's move to version 2 of this code to understand how it's implemented. So here is the version 2. Here I have introduced one more variable, static logger instance. So this is a kind of a pointer reference variable. This now I have here my again constructor same, log function again the same. So here is the main part. Here I have one more static function, static logger get logger. So it returns me the instance, logger instance, which was already created, or if it is not created, create a new instance and return me the instance of logger instance. So what does this does is that it checks if the logger instance is null, that is if it doesn't exist, means it will be null of course, then you create the new instance. If it is not null, that means some instance of the logger already exists in the memory, you return that instance, so return the logger instance. Again I have my initializations done here, count is equal to 0 and logger instance is initially null. Again I have my same functions here, user1 logs and user2 logs, as you can see. Now I will call this user1 logs and user2 logs. Okay, so but before that let's clear the terminal. Okay, now let's run this code. So as you can see here only one instance is created, the instance 2 is not created here. Instance 1 of class logger created, hello this is user1, hello this is user2. So let's try to understand what happened here. So when the user1 logs function is called, we go here, we call the get logger function. Now the difference here is that here our logger constructor is private. If you notice from the previous version, in the first version our logger was public, like our constructor was public, but now here our it is private, so the users can't access the logger constructor directly. Now the user can only access the public function, and in the public we have our get logger, whose job is to create the logger instance if it is not created, and if it is created then you return that instance. Okay, so now what happens is that user1 calls this function get logger. Again this is a static function, so it is a function of a class, so we can call directly get logger without creating the object. So here we call the get logger, and here it comes get logger, it checks that logger instance is null, it will create the object and it will return that instance. So logger instance has been written and the logger one will, like user1 will log its message. But now for the user2, when the pointer comes here and we call the user2 logs, again the same function will be called, that is get logger. Here it will see that logger instance is not null, so it will not enter the if block and it will return the logger instance which was already created. So once it is returned, the logger2, and it will print the message. So this solves our problem, but is it so? No. This code fails. It fails in multi-threading when 2 or more threads try to access that. Let's try to do that. Let's try to intentionally break this code. Okay, so here I will have my thread 1 and I will pass the user1 logs. Similarly I will create thread 2, thread t2, and pass the user2 logs. Okay, and after that I will just join this t1 dot join and t2 dot join. Okay, and I will comment these 2 lines of code. Okay, now let's try to run this. Okay, it printed the same result as first one, but let's try to run it again. Achha, I didn't save it, sorry. I saved it now. Okay, now let's try to run it. Okay, so as you can see our thing is messed up. As you can see the garbage result has been printed. I will show it again. Oh sorry, clear. Okay, so as you can see, instance 2 of class logger created, hello this is user1. Again it is 1 of class logger created, and hello this is user2. So as you can see, it like created some garbage output, and this is because of context switching between the 2 threads. Let's try to run it again. It will create some different output. So as you can see here we have again a different output instance 2 of class logger created. So before instance 2, and again we see this line instance, and again we see this line instance 2 of class logger created. So here it is first line, second line. Let's try to run it again. Again a different result. Yeah, so again here you can see instance of class 2 created. Hello, this is 2 of class created. So as you can see, for each subsequent runs we are getting different results, so we can't have this in working. So yeah, so how we can solve this? We can obviously solve this using logs. So let's see how to tackle this problem using in the version 3 of this code, but let's try to understand why this problem is actually occurring. So as you can see, we have two threads created here, thread 1 and thread 2, and we call the respective functions user1 and user2. So let's suppose thread 1 calls the function user1. We come here, we go into the get logger. So we are here get logger. It checks if logger instance is null. Yes, it is null, so it will enter inside if block. Now if at this point, if the context switch occurs, then the control will be passed to the thread 2. So thread 2 goes to user 2 logs, it will go to this get logger function and it will come here. It checks if instance logger instance null. Yes, it's still null because because for the thread 1 still we didn't created the object, right? It's still null, it will again enter the if block. So now both the threads, thread 1 and thread 2 are into the if block, and so the logger instance will be created 2 times. And so you can see the messed up console output. Okay, now we understood the problem. Let's try to solve it in the version 3 of this code, logger3.cpp. So here I implemented the logs. As you can see here, I have mutex log, and here I am double checking. This is called thread double check. Thread double check. As you can see, I have the same if block implemented 2 times. So logger instance equal to null. If it is null, go inside the if block. Now if inside the if block, what you will do, you will take the log. The log is applied. So even if the context switch occurs, we are fine. It will take the log. Again, it will do the same check. Logger instance equal to null. If it is null, create the new logger, come outside of the if statement, and you again unlog it, and you return the logger instance. So with this, what happens is that we get a proper output each and every time we run this code. So I will clear this, and now let's try to run this instance. Yeah, so this is our output. Let's try to run it again. Again the same result. Let's try to run it again. Again the same instance, same problem, same console output. So this is how we solve this problem. So this mechanism is called thread double check mechanism, in which we are doing same if statement check inside if statement, but the difference is that the if statement which is inside one, we are doing it after applying the log. So when we are inside the block, the thread has the log. If it has the log, this is like our this block will be only executed by a single thread at a time, as it is inside the log. So our problem is solved. So this is how the singleton pattern has been implemented. So that's all from my side in this video. Thank you for watching.